Hi, I'm Eli.
And I'm Sandy.
We're renovating our house.
Great.
All right.
Okay. Do you want to maybe start with how we picked this place?
Sure.
Okay.
So when we were looking for a new place, we were looking at it from a financial standpoint, and we looked at a lot of neighborhoods within Chicago, Woodlawn. We also looked at Hyde Park, but prices there are pretty high. In Woodlawn, we mostly found apartment buildings that were built in the sort of 90s and cheaply, with, I guess, split brick construction a lot of the time, which one of the brokers let us know is sort of a dangerous technique to use because they get waterlogged, the buildings, and can cause problems down the line. So when we saw that, we sort of backed away from a couple places that we were interested in there, and changed our focus more to the Bridgeport and McKinley Park area. The benefit of that was that it's affordable, and there was more options in terms of 2 flats and 3 flats and 4 flats. So we saw a bunch of 2 flats, a couple 4 flats, but the 4 flats basically were tiny and, maybe 450 square feet in each unit. And they had space heaters as the form of heat, which I guess are not allowed. And so to fix all that, we'd have to probably run all new vents for an HVAC system, and the properties were all in really horrendous condition. So it seemed like a little bit more than we could take on for our first project. But then we found this property at Winchester, which is a 2 flat that is set quite far back on the property line, at the very end on the alley rather than at the front where most of the houses are. And it was built in 1895, so quite old, and had an addition built in the 50s. Top unit is about 950 square feet, maybe more. Bottom unit is 875-ish. 2 bed, 1 baths in both. Upstairs, I guess, is a 2 bed plus den, which we're probably just going to use as a closet storage area for a bunch of Sandy's camera gear and things that we don't need to unpack this time around. And so we're trying to limit the extent of the renovations that we're going to do. Downstairs, we're going to put in all new floors. We're going to use this luxury vinyl plank from a company that's like a direct-to-consumer flooring company called Floret. And they have these really, really intense planks that have a 40 mil wear layer, which, if you look at some of the cheaper luxury vinyl flooring options, the wear layer is 8 mil to 12 mil, sometimes 20, but 40 is really, really intense. So that's good because we have a big dog and 2 cats, and we'll have renters, so that's really what protects the floor from wear. So that's nice. And we really liked also that the pattern of the wood, sort of the wood texture, is printed not only as an image, but also sort of there's depth to it. So it kind of cuts in grooves and stuff. So it feels like real hardwood. But it's easy to install. It just is a tongue and groove click system that I think we can do ourselves, hopefully. And it's also waterproof, and So that is great for our purposes. So new floors, we're going to do new kitchen cabinets upstairs. Downstairs, we're just going to repaint the cabinets. We're basically gutting the bathroom because we're figuring there's probably mold behind the tub area because the tile work was done really shoddily. And when we did the walkthrough with our architect and contractor, that was sort of the assessment that we'd basically have to gut it, which is a little bit unfortunate, but you know, that is what it is. So
do you want to go over what we did this week?
Sure. On Monday, it was Veterans Day, so everything was kind of on pause. But Tuesday morning, we closed the deal for this property. We met the sellers at the closing and got the keys from them. In a weird sort of event, there was more furniture in the unit than when we first toured it. We did a walkthrough on Monday, and for whatever reason, they had added furniture, sort of dumped it into the first floor unit. And so in the evening, the previous owners came by with a saw and literally just cut up their old furniture and dumped it in the alley. And they also hadn't given us all the keys, so like he had extra sets of keys, and like we didn't have keys to the second floor, so we had been locked out, and it was just quite a thing. And we moved in the afternoon, so we closed in the morning, we moved in the afternoon, and then went back to collect various things that we had left behind in the move.
So a friend texted yesterday about these plastic boxes that we used, and I thought it was sort of common knowledge, and I think most people do know about these, but they're really great for moving. You can rent them usually for 2 weeks at a time or so. So you'll have maybe a week before you move, and then a week after you move to basically unpack and pack your stuff. So it's really handy. You don't have to mess with all the cardboard boxes, building them, taking them apart, and potentially dealing with baby cockroaches living inside of them and then hatching in your apartment. So we definitely use them every time. It's also really neat because Gertie's giving me the saddest face. It's really neat because they just make moving a lot quicker because you can stack like 3 at a time and then they just roll them on a dolly. So it's super handy, and we always use them, so highly recommend.
So that was Tuesday. It was really busy. And Wednesday and Thursday, I went back to the old apartment, which we're now renting for the first time. This is our first time being landlords, and this is our first time also doing a renovation, so it's a lot to bite off. But Wednesday and Thursday, I basically spent the day juggling my day job and then also cleaning the old apartment and repainting, retouching up different bits that needed touching up. So that was exhausting. Okay, that's good, girl. Okay, lay down all the way.
That's pretty cute.
So where do you want to pick up?
Friday, tenant moved in.
Okay. So on Friday, the tenant moved in, and we did our final walkthrough. And in the afternoon, we had our architect, Ro, come by with a potential contractor that we'll be using, named Luis, to basically walk through the scope of the project that I had outlined previously and get a bid from him. During that walkthrough, both Luis and Ro kind of made clear that unfortunately, so we knew there was water damage in the basement, and we knew that there's sort of a current water seepage issue. Basically, the property sits right on the alley, and it's not properly sealed. And the previous owners, in an effort to kind of cheap out, they just put some sort of spray sealant that's supposed to go on the exterior of the house on the interior, and that did not prevent the weeping from occurring. So there's sort of a perpetual drip of water coming through, which over time kind of is making the house sink. And Luis said that if that spray thing had not been on there, then they could find the source of the individual leaks and kind of re-seal it. But since it's completely covered in this sealant now, our only option, he said, is to dig outside the back of the property down about 6 feet all the way to the basement, exposing the sort of foundation, and then wrapping it in a waterproof barrier, and then resealing it again, which sounds terrifying, sounds expensive, is rather nerve-wracking. And then in addition to that, we will have to install drain tile, which I'm considering doing myself, but both the architect and my wife, Sandy, who was behind the camera, are not very much in favor of that. But we'll see. Luis seemed skeptical as well, I will say. So we'll see if I do it or not. Basically, I think we have a fixed budget of $60K that we're trying to stay within. And so we've planned for $30K of that to go towards structural issues, so the waterproofing, the drainage tile, and support beams, because there's a few saggy, rotting support beams. So we're going to replace those with steel beams. So depending on how the quotes come in, I'll need to do some of the stuff myself, and I want to do some of the stuff myself. So we're looking for areas to save money. So about a week from Friday, I guess this coming Friday, we should have a quote from Luis, and we'll see how that comes in. And we would start the first floor immediately, and then move down to that once it's complete, and then do the second floor. And then in the summer, probably do the waterproofing, because we need to pull permits for that, which I guess will take 4 months approximately, is what we were told. So that's kind of where we're at. I have started doing some of the demo myself downstairs, pulling up some of the linoleum tiles that are just glued down, and pulling up the baseboard. I've been trying to work on replacing the locks, but needed a chisel to make a new hole for the...
Alright, so today I'm going to try setting up a lock. I have no idea how to do it. Never done it before. So just bought a new set of locks for the house. These are just kind of like basic locks from the wire cutter recommendation, because pretty much everything I buy is from whatever wire cutter recommends. I'm going to do 2 smart locks, one for our unit and then one for the common area between the 2 units, so that ideally Amazon and UPS and FedEx can all drop off packages downstairs in our sort of common unused area and whatnot, even when we're not here. So we should be able to unlock the door for them remotely, and then for the other locks, just using basic locks. But definitely don't trust anything that's already here, just because everything is pretty janky. So replacing the locks seemed like a good place to start, and from what I can gather, it's not that hard to do, so we'll see.
Yeah, so
It's a Schlage, sort of simple thing. Wire cutter. Also recommended buying one of these things to, I think, help make it more difficult to break into. So again, I don't know how anything fits together, but we'll see. All right, so I'm gonna be replacing this strike plate with, I guess, this whole strike plate with box, and I guess the goal there is to protect the deadbolt on the inside there when it's closed, so you really can't kick it in. And then rather than having these dinky little screws, you get those screws instead, which are much more secure, I guess. Apparently you could easily kick these in. But from what I gather, I'll have to get a chisel, which I don't have, and essentially open this box up even more, because right now it's just a tiny little hole, and I think I need that whole box size basically in there. So I guess I will have to go get a chisel, and I'm starting to worry about whether this might be more of a project than I thought, because I'm also confused what is going on here, because there seems to be another metal piece back here that looks like a strike plate. And there's just a small piece of wood up front, this frame. So it's like, I almost feel like maybe the door was a little bit over before, and then they just put a piece of wood on and kind of scooched it up. I really don't get it, but I don't love it. So I may end up having to call a locksmith on this one. Maybe I'll have them do one and I'll do the other, but we'll see. Still no luck on installing the locks. Basically I need to go get a chisel, it seems like, and then one of the screws for the locks downstairs that I was going to replace is stripped, so I'm trying to find my pliers, but I have no idea where they are. See if I can pull it out the rest of the way, because I was able to get it out some. So we'll see.
We have a smart lock coming for upstairs, which will be nice because Sandy's cousin, who watches our cats, will be able to get in without having to get a set of keys, and we can install one downstairs. There's 2 entrances, one directly to each unit and then one to the common hallway. And so we're thinking we'll install a smart lock on the common hallway so that Amazon and other, I guess, deliveries can be let in remotely to that common area and still not have access to the properties themselves, so that we can keep the packages inside in a weather controlled area and in a secure area. So that'd be really sweet. And then our new toilet should arrive on Friday. I guess the other things we did this week included getting the HVAC system checked out because it wasn't warming up very efficiently here. And it turned out that the blower was on the wrong setting and that the filter that we were using is a little too granular, detailed. The filters that had been used in the system were just too small, not in terms of the physical size, but in terms of filtration level. It was basically preventing the airflow from coming through and we didn't have hot water when we moved into the unit. It turned out that it was not broken. They just had it on the pilot mode, so we turned it to on or whatever, and that solved it. So unfortunately that was another $75 diagnostic, but it's the cost of not knowing what you're doing. Our toilet also has a crack in it, so the tank part, basically whenever you flush, clean water drips out onto the floor. So it's not poop water or like gross water, but it's still problematic. So we're getting a new toilet, the Toto Ultramax 2, which, having done some research, seems to be one of the better affordable toilets out there. It's got tornado flush, which we're pretty excited about. And it's basically just some sort of marketing language for their flushing system, but we like it. So that should arrive on Monday, and I'm going to try replacing the toilet myself. Luis also said I should replace the hose and valve for the toilet, that they're looking kind of rusted. But I don't think I'm going to do that this time, because we just need it to last for another couple months before we tear up the entire bathroom. So we'll see if that was a good decision or a bad decision, and if I can actually replace the toilet or not. I watched some YouTube videos and it doesn't seem that hard. So